Hi, my name is Katherine Foley, and I'm the opinion editor for The Hoya, and I'm sitting down here with a couple of our columnists. Do you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Sophia Berhie.
My name's Sam Dulik.
And I'm Michael Fischer.
So each of these writers appear every other week in The Hoya, and they all have different columns with different themes. And I think they bring a lot of different voices to the table. Do you guys want to go around and say some of the things that you expect readers to get out of your column? Tell us a little bit more about it and about yourselves.
Sure.
Well, I'm from West Virginia, and I'm a daughter of two immigrants, so international relations and humanitarian aid are really important to me. So I write about human rights issues primarily, and my column is called Cardamom, Spice, and Human Rights, and most of my topics have to do with Africa or other issues. So that's pretty much my column.
Great.
I wrote a column called Quorum Call, and it's a combination of a lot of different things. It's a lot of inside baseball, kind of political analysis, nuts and bolts of campaigns, elections, government issues. Also to the extent that there's a real opinion element of it. I am someone who's a member of College Republicans and am a conservative and have done a lot in the Republican Party, so I try to bring that perspective to each column that I write a little bit as well.
Which is nice because you're paired up with someone from a Democratic perspective on the other side. The column I write is called Cura Hoyanalis, so it's a playoff of the Jesuit ideal of Cura Personalis. And what I focus on is what makes Georgetown students different, unique, what makes them tick, what inspires them, and sort of reflecting on the great passion and love that people have for Georgetown and what that means for students as they go here over the 4 years of their undergraduate experience.
Great. So, it's really interesting for me as an editor to get to read each of these columns whenever they come in. Recently, Sam, you tackled the issue of a call for more moderation in politics. Sophia, you questioned the the genuine giving of certain celebrities and whether or not there's an ulterior motive for fame. And Michael, recently, or a column that you have coming up discusses our founding fathers, of Georgetown, so to speak, and the men and women who really worked for us to build the university to make it what it is today. And, I read these columns and I get different perspectives all over, but I'm wondering which of the columns that you've written has meant the most to you? Have you felt you got the most to readers, and why?
It's tough. I've written 3 semesters now for the Hoya in a variety of different column capacities. The one that I think has gotten the most attention or the most positive reader feedback or started the most conversation was one I did earlier this semester on reflections on Jesuit Heritage Week and what that means for the university. A lot of people came up to me and said, I really enjoyed reading your article, and I disagree on this point, or I'd like to learn more about what you mean by the heritage of the Jesuits at Georgetown. So it's really great to see that feedback and feel like not only people reading my article, but that they're also engaging their own minds over it. So that's been really rewarding as well. I used to do, a couple of years ago, little pieces on Valentine's Day and Halloween about little traditions behind them. Those are really enjoyable to write.
I also have been writing Quorum Call for a long time. I started in my freshman year writing, so obviously there have been a lot of political events that have transpired over the course of that time that have given me good fodder to think about. But one of the columns that, I don't want to be too narrow in what I'm talking about, but the most recent column that I wrote about not only the need for moderation in our politics, but for the way that we conduct ourselves and engage in debate, kind of a gentility and a respect. It's something that I feel very strongly about in one of the columns that I was really most proud to write, and what I was really happy as well was the reaction that I was able to get to that. People on the left and on the right agreeing that this is the type of thing that we do need to invest more in and talk more about. And my hope is that I will be able to continue on over the course of this semester, certainly writing in Quorum Call about these type of issues, but also challenging traditional perspectives.
Well, the most challenging and most interesting column for me to write was one I wrote about Meles Zenawi, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, where my father is from. The Horn of Africa is really important to me, as my mother is from Somalia, my father's from Ethiopia. And really what I concluded with that article was that really, there's so much development that's going on in Ethiopia, but there's so many human rights violations, and we just overlook those violations because the rest of the Horn of Africa is just in shambles. And that was something that was really important to me, but it was also really challenging to kind of articulate what I wanted to say while also respecting my father and like the ideas he has about Meles Zenawi and his approach to the whole situation. But in terms of reader feedback, I've had a lot of great feedback on my most recent article, which I wrote about inefficient aid. So I wrote about how there are all these celebrities with these paradigms, and they're humanitarians, and we see people like George Clooney who do really great things on their pedestals and their soapboxes to get attention. But then on the other hand, there are other celebrities who really kind of manipulate the situation and use it sort of as what I call an extortion tactic.
Well, great. We'll look forward to that. And just a final question. I know that I'm a pretty routine person. I like to read your guys' work in the morning usually, or on Tuesdays, I guess, later in the afternoon. Before dinner, but I was wondering if you all have any quirks or any habits that you need for when you're writing your column, sitting down to write.
Well, I'll start, because almost all the articles I've written this semester, I've woken up pretty early in the morning, sat down with a bowl of dino eggs in bed. It's like children's oatmeal. I make a bowl of dino eggs, and I write my column, so that's kind of what I do.
I tend to get just an idea that pops into my head that I get really, really excited about, and there's no telling when that comes up and coincides with whatever deadlines I'm working on. So I've been known to email in a column that just really strikes me like 2 weeks in advance of my deadline, just because I'm like, yes, I want to write about this so badly. So what I'll end up doing is just doing a mental dump where I'll sit down at my computer really excited, and it's always a good idea to come back the next day or let a period of time go by so I can go back and read it over and go, no, or rework it however it might be. So that's kind of my routine.
Yeah, the mental dump is something for me. I usually spew out sort of all these ideas and sort of a stream of consciousness on the page, and then use a lot of copy, paste, and editing to move the sentences around and actually structure them into something that's legible and readable in a actual form, and usually use like brackets to put out thematic elements and stuff. But when you first see it, believe me, you wouldn't want to look at it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. As I said, my name is Katherine Foley, and I'm the opinion editor, and these are 3 of our 8 columnists who appear on a rotating basis. And this has been Behind the Byline. Thank you.